This has been, I think, 5 or 6 years in the making since we at least knew about you, and then
saw him at CrimeCon, so that would have been what?
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
We met at CrimeCon. And
Right.
we've been in
And
touch.
shout out to Ken Bernstein for
Yes.
introducing me to you both. I remember showing up there, and
Yeah, that's right.
so many people at that CrimeCon at Opry Mills, and y'all just had these massive mobs of crowds watching y'all's live podcast. That was a big experience for me. It was really cool.
Oh, with Mike King, right?
Right.
Yeah, I
And
got to sit in the live. Yeah, that's right.
That's
King.
right.
Mhm.
Mike.
And that was kind of was that your first time sort of being out and about in public in Nashville?
It for a long time. And I credit Ken for kind of just pulling me out, getting me to go over there, and then getting to meet y'all, and that was just so amazing.
Yeah,
So cool.
Ken's good like that.
Ken is good. Just like Ken's like, just come with me. Let's just do this. Which, given everything you've gone through, that took some trust to go with almost a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
That's right.
Ken has a way.
Ken has a way. Big shout out to Ken Bernstein.
Yeah,
He's a big,
for sure.
big advocate and supporter of ours, and we can't thank him enough. I'm really glad he brought you out there. So between then and now, let's just start with right now.
He's our Nashville Connect.
Yeah, he's our Nashville Connect.
Yeah.
How are you doing right now? We haven't talked. We've texted since then, but we haven't really talked. How are you? How's your well-being?
Well, how am I doing? That's it's complicated, but maybe it's not too complicated. I feel like I'm still, emotionally, I'm making it. I'm not gonna say I'm doing great, but we can get to that. But I mean, how I'm doing is I'm still doing my social media campaign against Remnant. And I am, still in that process of exposing the church. So it's hard to say as far as like, have I moved on, or, I don't know. I still have a lot of trust issues. I'm sure y'all hear that a lot.
Yeah.
But, because I'd been in churches my whole life, and, way down in Remnant were my entire life. And I've seen a lot of questionable things from religious organizations. So I'm trying to get over all that. And Remnant didn't believe in therapy, and I've been taking, therapy sessions with, I believe y'all know Dr. Laura. I believe Sarah, you were probably the one recommending her.
Has that been helpful?
It's been amazing. It's been amazing. I mean, Dr. Laura Anderson is, y'all know her. I mean, she's been in the high control, high demand religious environments. So, I mean, I feel like she's been truthfully able to kind of see how I've been affected, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome. And I feel like something like, I've told this to people, something like clarity maybe comes with every session. And when I feel a little bit off track, I feel like it's something that just hones me in on kind of where I need to be. Kind of a clarity of purpose, so to speak, and with the sessions. And it's a little bit of a self-discovery. And Remnant, you weren't allowed to have therapy in Remnant. It was your therapy was listening to Gwen's tapes.
Right.
Wow.
And so that was the only therapy I'd had to that point. But and I believe one of her goals, like we've talked about, is kind of something like for me to live my best life possible. I'm sure y'all hear that a lot. And
yeah.
And I know that may sound confusing to some people that listen and know me, because I've said I'm still on this track of going right against Remnant. But I will say the therapy, it's helping. it's hard to talk about everything with
Mhm.
her. There's some things that are difficult to bring up, but um anyway, it's good. She's
Good.
amazing.
Right.
I'm so happy to hear that, and we'll talk more about, your healing and religious trauma and all that maybe in part 2, and let's rewind a little bit. Obviously, we'll encourage people to watch the documentary, and, I mean, assuming you think that it's accurate,
Well, it helps
eh
put this into context.
yeah, just
You
for
know,
some
so
context.
gives people a little
Mhm.
refresher as to,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
Well, Michael, we'll also record an introduction with some of the basics about Remnant and about Gwen and Joe and just sort of like an update in the introduction. And this is people want to know more about that story, they can watch the documentary. This is your story. Okay. This is your journey in this
Okay.
podcast. So obviously you didn't choose you didn't sign up for the Remnant Church. You didn't, you know, make the investment and buy some cassettes. You were born into it. And we'd love to just
Mm.
hear a little bit about your life and any memories that you wanna share about your upbringing that, weren't in the documentary, because obviously a documentary can't capture what's not filmed, and even when it is
Sure.
filmed, they can edit it accordingly. What was life like, with your mother, with Gwen?
Well, to technically, I wasn't born into Remnant, but
Right.
I grew up. I had already always seen Gwen being this woman who she knew what the lead of God was from a very young age. However you want to frame that. I feel like my whole life, spent in some form of a church. And we were raised Church of Christ, which is a denomination in Christianity, very conservative denomination. Um, and our house was very ultra conservative type settings. We weren't allowed to watch the rated R movies. I had to go sneak to a friend's house to watch Terminator 2, stuff like that. Couldn't watch
that's my first
MTV.
red flag right there.
It's such a great movie
It
too.
really is. I
Um,
remember when it came out.
I like that red flag.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but and our house was a lot of spiritual talk. My father was, he had gotten his master's of divinity actually from Harding Graduate School of Religion. So it's a very religious household. The environment was very, you know, it was a daily type thing,
Mhm.
talking about God. I do feel though, even from a very early age, it was a bubble. Even the Church of Christ itself is a bubble. Uh, I mean, I'm not, y'all know all this stuff, but you know, the Church of Christ itself is a bubble to the outside world. Remnant would be a bubble within a bubble.
Mhm.
But I'd say we were a little bit uh, not having a clue how the world works in many ways. They were kind of shielding a lot. It was kind of a closed environment. Um, and I've said this about Gwen before. I would put her in a category of helicopter parent. Um, my father, David, he was always the one who he was trying to get us out into the real world. I felt
Right.
like he was trying to be that grounding, that realistic guy, and in which unfortunately in turn later on it gets twisted around by Gwen that he represented Satan. So she was constantly saying stuff like that to me and my sister when he would leave. She was bad mouthing him all the time when he went off. So, but that was a stage. Gwen, I think most people will probably, the wanting to know about Gwen. She was, if she had a humble state, that was it. In Memphis, we did not have a lot of money. Our family was in debt. By the time I was in third or fourth grade, we were in a lot of debt. We lived in Midtown in Memphis, Tennessee. It was a lot of crime. Like my bike was stolen 3 times, and our mower was stolen twice. And you know, you every school I went to had bullet holes in every window. Um, and so she would, that was kind of the way down workshop weight loss program. That was kind of the beginnings of that in Memphis in the 1980s. And she was, shopping at thrift stores for our clothes, and um, she, but that's where it would all begin in Memphis, and
And you were
that's
how
where
old when the Way Down started?
I was about 6 or 7.
Okay. So you can remember that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel like the documentary captured that part of her life accurately? Like did that seem reflective of what it was like? I mean, it was always the different mom at home, of course, but like from what you saw?
Right. I feel like the documentary did an incredible job.
Great.
Um, Marina and all of them, the director Zinovich, I mean, they did an amazing job, and they put a lot of work into that.
Mhm.
And it was accurate. There are things in the documentary, however, that there's no way they would have known, uh, based off a lot of the people, because and some of this is my opinion. Some people
Mhm.
may disagree with me on this, but I saw Gwen even in the early stages as there was some anti-male authority type thing going on. And this plays into kind of later on. I'll explain, but um in churches of Christ, like every church we went to, from a very young age, you know, she's always causing issues in these churches that we go to.
Mhm.
And I don't think that's probably known by a lot of public. She would be speaking out in classes. I would hear these things from my dad, and they would always be it was difficult for him because, she's talking over the elders or people. They'll say, does somebody have a comment in a big, large adult class at a church? And she's going to want to get up and speak, and she's going to want to teach. Uh, and in those days in the Church of Christ, that was not exactly normal. It's probably not a big deal now, but and she would be supporting women teachers a lot, and she just had this way of living that it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So there was always be like some sort of wake of people behind her that everywhere we went that had um, not great memories of her, or she could rub people the wrong way.
Right. She's
And
type A for sure. It's
right, type
Type
A
A
narcissist.
plus.
Yeah.
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 Type
Yeah.
A hole. But she
So that's the sound bite right there.
Finish the sentence.
But it really, it's kind of my understanding from everything I ever saw. She had never been, you talk about authority or patriarchy, all of these things. She had never been under authority of any man, if that makes sense. And it's hard to describe that, but there was no preacher. My father, uh, a workplace, there was no, she had that within her from a very young age. And it was kind of her own, jealous or whatever you want to call it, wanting power self, her method of wanting to, she wanted to kind of be on the giving end of abuse in a lot of ways. And,
Mm.
she always felt like, um, that she was enslaved wherever she was. And I think people see that theme. I don't think a lot of people know where that theme came from, the Exodus out of Egypt in Way Down Workshop.
Mhm.
The whole theme was the Israelites leaving the slavery of Egypt
And the Pharaoh.
and Pharaoh.
Yeah.
hmm And God leading them out. But if you really look at it, her whole life was getting out of the slavery of dieting. I think that was on her Way Down diet book, like slogan. Um, she was enslaved by male authority in churches. Um, the whole thing was always breaking those chains, getting out, and that
Were
carried
those
on.
were those change real or imagined, or do you think she created the dynamic so that it gave her kind of a victim perpetrator narrative that she could maybe leverage as a means of power, or
I
because
do believe some of it's real. I
because a
mean,
woman
Because that is the structure,
well,
right, of
because
the yeah.
being a woman
mhm.
not under male authority isn't a negative concept necessarily. Do you know what I
No,
mean?
that's exactly
Disrespecting
right.
men for just being men is where it becomes problematic, but I don't think that
Right,
I
right.
guess where did
And
she twist it, and where was her
where did she twist it? So
y
I would so like her it was in so in Remnant Fellowship, and I know y'all I've listened to the other podcast y'all did with one of the ex members, Gina.
Mhm.
Um, but they're talking about, the submission part of Remnant.
Mhm.
Women being in submission to men. And keep in mind, I don't have a problem with women, you know, the equality type part of that. That's
No.
not
Yeah.
It
my
sounds like that's what she's leveraging, the
yes.
narrative, right?
It was
And
it was it was a very deep part of her.
yeah.
Okay. Um, so like, you know, in way down in the early stages of Remnant, she loves to share how under authority she is. She loved to talk about how submissive with all things. It was submission to God. She's submissive to her husband. The entire program was based on basically her giving up her will. Um, One of the foundational verses of Remnant, in which was in Way Down too, Jesus talking about the world must learn I love the Father and do exactly what he commands. Jesus submitting his will to God. And that was the foundation, like, and how we are all supposed to be submissive. The submissive wife was an example to honor God. We're supposed to be submissive to God. And but there's lying throughout all of her videos. It's sprinkled everywhere, because the submission she sprinkles through all of these way down talks, all of her live talks, how women should no longer be enslaved with men preachers. It was mainly men church leaders, okay? But with her, it carried over to everything. But she was a
I
lot
see.
with her. It ended up being husbands, men, anything, but it the start is mainly men, male church authorities. So throughout all the teachings, it's how women are supposed to be finding their own lead, not to be enslaved from these preachers or these church authorities, which just happened to be this, a lot of the churches in the 80s and 90s. It was still a lot of male
Well,
leaders.
it's still today, isn't it? Mostly?
I'm
Wouldn't you
sure it
wouldn't you
is,
argue?
but then it was even more it was
Right.
very unusual for a woman to be a leader of a church. You just didn't see that. And I mean, it's there. I'm sure it's out there, but in the 80s. But um, so she was saying that through the teachings, because she was saying the men are leading y'all astray. And she called it mixing the message. Like the men, she was teaching the women how to do it right. The men were giving the women permission to do it wrong. And she was it basically, her message was anti-authority in itself in way down. She would say things like the wife's supposed to be submissive to the husband. You know, she would claim the husbands and men are supposed to be the heads of the church. Keep in mind, we're still talking about Christian patriarchy here.
Mhm.
Um, you know, however people view that. And
Well, yeah, I was gonna say there's no other structure out there that reinforces that dynamic of subservient women to men, right, in our culture than the Christian patriarchy. Is that accurate?
well, what do you mean? Say, like, describe that
Well,
again.
the traditional male-female roles are generally reinforced by church dynamics, like a more submissive woman to a more, I guess, father
Sure,
figure, right?
certainly, right. Based off
And
that
and
patriarchal,
she's and she
Judeo-Christian system.
Yeah.
right, and she's pushing back on that?
hmm
Okay.
That's what I've been saying this whole time, and it's not exactly the most popular opinion on everything,
Right.
because it's mainly women that were a part of it. But that's why, I mean, I call it nowadays. I call the Remnant Fellowship and Wait Out. I call it the women's movement. Um, I called it that with the Drew Binsky video. It was built off out Way Down itself. The Remnant came out of Way Down. That was already very heavily centered. It was a women's experience. Okay. It was body image, food, self-control, a lot of shame. It was a lot of areas where, and keep in mind, I'm not trying to go into like misogynistic type things here. I know it can sound like that, but it
No,
was
anytime you talk about the differences of genders, you can risk that. But I think in this case, it's clear abuses of power, and putting language to the abuses of power is extremely valuable.
Wait,
but
Michael, can I just interrupt for a second? Because I'm having
Mhm.
trouble following, but can I just repeat back what I think I'm hearing you saying and tell me if it's accurate?
Sure.
So in the Christian patriarchy, where the men are in charge and women are supposed to follow, it seemed like she was like, no, I'm not going to do that, and was pushing back on it and getting women to kind of question that, but then making them obedient to her. So it
Yeah.
wasn't really that.
Mhm.
She was kind of,
She was attacking the power structure
yeah,
to take the
Mhm.
power.
yeah, like using using the abuse of power to abuse her own power. Is that right? Is that
That's
Yep.
that's
okay?
exactly
So
right. Yeah.
you're not shitting on, just to be clear, if anyone's accusing you of this, because it sounds like you're sensitive to it. You're not shitting on women being equal, right?
No.
You're not
No.
shitting on women.
Or attempting to gain power. That's not.
Right.
Yeah. No.
So that's a I see what you're saying. That's a tricky um area to
It's
discuss.
it's not the simplest thing either, but you're exactly right. She's setting up things in all of these programs so that, these women who Way Down is 98%, 99% women in the 80s,
Right.
90s. It's millions of women in churches. Just about all, most of them are
Right.
in churches. She's setting things up so they can leave a situation that's mildly uncomfortable. She's paving the way for them. It's a form of anti-authority Christianity.
Mhm.
Um, and she's trying to guide them into Remnant like a ship. She's
Right.
encouraging them to look for their own leads. So in churches, if there is this patriarchal system in a church, she's encouraging women to look for their own lead from God, personally, bypassing the men,
Mm.
bypassing the preacher. And then it goes from just bypassing the preacher's lead from God to bypassing the church, their organization. That's the next step. And she starts calling all these churches counterfeits
Hmm.
because that's the primary way she's going to get her followers for a new church. They have to be bad for you to be good. I mean, I know y'all.
So
She's attacking her competition.
did she have the long game?
Mhm.
Like, do you think she had the long game? Like, I'm going to do this way down, or did she start to gain success with the way down and realize that she could convert those people to followers? And then, like, how planned out was this? Do you think? It's hard to know, but what's your guess?
I'm not sure that she knew what it was going to turn into at the very beginning. Um, I felt like, though, like I said earlier, I felt it was something ingrained inside of her.
Mm.
I think that's probably it. I think when you grift, it's the grift that's around you, and then if your grift gains momentum, it can probably shift the grift to something else, but it's
Mhm.
always the same. Put me in a position of the sinner, and in doing so, she's attacking her competition by.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a tactic.
Meanwhile, what's life like for you? What was are you going to you're going to Church of Christ school, and then eventually she's like, now we're gonna start our own.
R Right,
Yeah.
but when Remnant started, I was graduating high school, so,
Right.
I never experienced I did go to a private Christian high school, David Lipscomb in Nashville,
Oh yeah.
but, I I never fully experienced the amount of hate that came. Once word got out that she started her own church, it was, like, massive. We called it in Remnant persecution.
Right.
Mhm. But it was, that was a big roller coaster, but that was not till I got out of high school, started college.
Okay. So what do people not know? Like, you live this. You assuming you lived with her. What happened to your dad, by the way? Your parents got divorced?
Yeah, that's right. They
Yeah.
divorced 2018, and
Okay.
then after that, 2021, after the plane crash, I leave Remnant in 2021, and then I get to finally spend a couple of years with him, which was great. I'd always had a lot of respect for him, but then we went to lunch every single day. Unfortunately, he kind of became my like only, my only friend at that point. But then he gets pancreatic cancer and passed away.
Oh
So,
man.
20 just a year later, basically.
Oh, Michael.
So I was like
Jesus.
caring for him the whole time too, and watching him waste away. He lost like
Shit.
160 pounds.
Fuck.
It's never fun. Cancer's not fun.
You've
Yeah.
been through it. You've just like, God, one thing after
Jeez.
another.
But
What year did he die?
A year after the prayer.
2023.
Jesus.
In fact, this month he died tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 3-year mark. May 19th.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Jesus. How
But
did
at least
he-
I got to have,
Yeah.
I got to have some
Some
good.
closure.
Yeah.
That's right. Closure.
Did he fill in some gaps for you of like what happened from
Mhm.
his perspective?
hmm Oh yeah, we talked about it every day, and he would tell he unfortunately had not seen a lot of the inside terrible stuff about Remnant that I had seen. Like, when I started exposing all that stuff with Phil Williams, the guidance system and all that stuff, he did not know about all that. Excuse me. I have issues. He didn't know about all that stuff, but he was, he had known Gwen though for longer than anybody. So he would talk about how Gwen was in college and things of that nature.
Hmm.
What did
This-
he? What was his diagnosis? What did he say? Was he as blindsided by it as everyone else? Did he see it happen gradually? What was his take?
Um, he saw it coming a long way off.
Mm-hmm.
I remember him talking to me about when Remnant first started. He actually was a part of Remnant, keep in mind, for
Mm-hmm.
the first 8 months of Remnant. And then he backs out because Gwen being the leader, the preacher, she's the judge, jury, and executioner. Um, it was just too much for him. And he was trying to make it work, and it just didn't work. It was super awkward. And because she's sitting there on stage saying women should be submissive to men, and yet he has to do what she says.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird. And he also saw the praise part get to her. He saw the Gwen before she got big. A lot of this is like the same. It's like the Hollywood story of somebody being a nobody, and then they get lifted up and they're famous, and then they get arrogant and their friends, somebody says, "Hey, you're not the same person anymore." And we've all seen those movies, right?
It's true.
It's kind of a cliche, isn't it?
Is.
With a little extra hair.
But that
poof.
was her.
Yeah.
Her high heels got too high. She was. I used the term. I would always like make this in my journal. Like it was like Icarus, the Greek mythology, and his father Daedalus is warning him. Makes him these wings, but don't fly too close to the sun, because his wings are made with wax, and he gets too high, and the sun melts the wax, and he falls to the earth.
Mm-hmm.
She had her wings, and she went a little too high.
Yeah.
Burned
Definitely.
burned her hair probably too.
Yes.
It
Wings
set
and
it
hair.
on fire.
Singed.
Hair of fire.
What about your sister?
Wait. Before we get to that, I had a quick question.
That was my quick question.
I know. I want to come back to that. But listen, what was it like for you? Like when did you what was your own journey? You're in the documentary. We see you as, playing your music and that you're super talented and you're leading these things.
That's
When
debatable.
Okay, well, I'm saying you're super talented, and when I spoke to God, and
Why,
God and I
thank you,
agreed.
Sarah.
But what was like, when did you start to have doubts? Do you have any particular moments where you started to question things, and can you remember some of them?
Hmm. Oh yeah. There's all kinds of things. As far as like you're talking about, like when I started seeing um issues, things like that.
Yeah, it could be before Remnant, during Remnant, like, tell us some stories that of your own
So,
inner struggles.
something that I don't think has come out a lot is when Remnant started in the late 1990s. I was doing music, and I had some albums, and I started getting to record. And Gwen's at the height of her popularity there, like 1997, 1998, 1999. And her books are selling everywhere. They're in all the stores, the Lifeway Christian stores. Um, I was at that point pursuing Christian music professionally at that point. Um, I actually had a development deal with it's a label called Rocket Town Records. It was Don Donahue who was the head of it at the time. And they brought in this big producer from LA. His name was Monroe Jones, and he was going to produce me. He came to Ashlawn, which was the house we all lived in, to listen to me play music. And I was going to get a 3-song deal for radio, Christian radio. And so, right as that's happening, so I'm getting out of high school and getting this opportunity. Um, Remnant starts, and then there's the immediate backlash. Gwen had a book deal with Thomas Nelson for her second book. They cancel her book. She was going to be on a 52 city book tour on a private jet. Um, Thomas Nelson cancels it. The churches start dropping way down programs. The Christian conferences start distancing themselves from us. And then they call up, and I get the call from David Martin. Gwen sends David Martin in to tell me. And they're like, sorry, your deal's done. So it ended before it even started.
Sorry, remind us who David Martin is.
So David Martin was like her right-hand guy.
Yeah.
He was one of the people leaders that died on the plane crash as well. He was the worship leader, David Martin.
Mhm.
Me and him were worship leaders.
And they
What
told
was the
you it
reason?
died because what? I mean, not died. So like the
So
deal
they
died
backed
because
out because the Christian all of the Christian businesses backed out of Way Down. So they said my music deal was canceled immediately.
Damn.
The producers, they all pulled out. So as soon as I got the opportunity to have a music deal, that was going to be my life, Christian music. I was going to be on the radio, in the studios and do all that. Because Way Down also had a humongous audience. Keep in mind, it's not because I was so talented; it's because Way Down had a huge built-in audience.
And the
Um,
Christians were separating from the Way Down because this is when she introduced that she wasn't supportive of the Trinity, or like what was that? Is that why they were all changing?
it was the Trinity and her starting her own church, the Remnant.
Ah, I see. Okay, so
When she announces that she's starting the Remnant Fellowship.
okay,
But yeah, the
So
Trinity
she went
was
a
a big
little
part
too
of it.
far with her.
yeah, and
Right.
do you like one thing we rewatched the doc just because it's been a while, and I had forgotten that even the word remnant implies like one true church. It's the only one. And as
Mhm.
you know now from doing your cult recovery work and reading our book, that every culty church, not all churches, but the culty ones, say that they're
Mhm.
the one true church. It's the only way,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that's a
No,
big red flag.
they've always, what Remnant is so funny about is that they say something and they'll take it back and say, we didn't say that. They do that more than anybody on the planet.
Does
They
that drive you
they
nuts?
they rescind their claims. They yes, it drives me nuts.
I imagine.
What
Do
drives
I
you nuts?
not look crazy? Um, but they've always stated that they're the first people to know the real truth of the Bible.
Right.
And I'm like, has anybody been to a library or something? They don't. There's been countless Christian groups that have gone before Remnant, and that was something I used to warn Gwen, and I would say I wouldn't warn her. I would say things just to make people think. I'd be like, y'all do realize there's been tens of thousands of Christian movements since the time of after Christ that have come and gone before us, and they really felt like they were on the track, and
Right.
then they lost their supposedly righteous direction. And even that context, they didn't want to hear that. They didn't want to think that this could have happened before, that there's other people. Gwen wanted, they wanted to feel like they're the only ones. And Remnant, they lose their, they build their legalistic groundwork, and it's the Church of Thin, right?
Right.
Mm.
And it's for people who want to worship Gwen Shamblin at this point. And it's people that love to be on camera. It was all about appearances. It was a skin deep religion.
Right.
It was an appearance driven religion. A surface only, the services were, I used to call the sanctuary, I called it the studio. It wasn't the sanctuary, because there's so many cameras and staging and how it's put together. It's not a sanctuary, it's a studio. It's an appearance driven church. And it turned everybody sitting in that building into the same thing. It turned everybody into shallow. It turned everybody into surface. I'm not saying everybody, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Remnant weight was the number one sin, overeating. And so that's the foremost barometer of sin. And so, don't let yourself get too large if you want to stay in this church of all these women spies watching and controlling you. It's your size, your weight, it's how you dress, your clothing. It's getting approval from your peers and leaders. It's a lot of cliques. It's a lot of parties. It's closer to a women's sorority or something than it is a church. But that was Remnant. It was a lot of that.
Where is it now?
We're gonna find out how we got out first.
Of it now.
Sorry, what?
What is the state of the church now?
I would say they are. They're not doing great. It's basically kind of become like they've been seriously hurt, I believe, from all of the things that have been exposing it. If I had to guess,
The documentary.
HBO, the documentary, right?
Right.
That did not help them at all. The
not
plane
good
crash
PR.
didn't help them at all.
No.
I mean, when the plane crash first happens, you think about that 7 leaders. I used to think corporations don't last if they lose 7 of their
Right.
top leaders in one day. That's why you don't put, all your generals on the same plane in the army. The president and the vice president never fly on the same plane for that very reason.
Or at the same time. Yeah.
At the same
Yeah.
time, yeah. So
Right.
that
didn't know that.
damaged Remnant, and then the documentary
Mm.
is damaging all of these things that have come out exposing. I've been fortunate enough to be able to put a lot of stuff on social media. I've had a lot of sources sending me things that I could put out, further exposing them, and then had the Phil Williams interview. And there's other people doing interviews as well. You've got the Gina Wilson that was on y'all's podcast, which that was excellent, by the way. I've listened to that probably like 30 times.
Really? 30
Well, I
times?
am obsessed with this, Sarah. I'm obsessed with Remnant. But
Yeah.
that was an excellent interview.
Thank you
And
so
shout
much
out
for
to Gina,
saying that.
by the way.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Gina, and that reminds me we have to send her a copy
Yeah.
of the book because she's in it. Have you got to that part in the book where we talk about?
Yes, I want to say I've read yes, I'm doing my best. It's a lot in that book.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's almost I almost want to say the word is like it's overwhelming in a way. Like it's awesome. I love that y'all have like a cheat sheet on every chapter, and it's a lot of people's stories from the people that you've had on your podcast, and it's almost overwhelming because it's like I identify with a lot of y'all's experience so much, and it's not a very common experience for me
Mhm.
to see
hmm
that. And there's so many good points in it. It's going to be one of those things I'm going to have to read over and over. It's like a manual.
Yeah, it's a manual.
We
You
want it
nailed
to
it.
be a
That's what we
manual,
want it to be. Yeah.
a handbook for survivors.
That's the best endorsement.
It's good.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
There is a little something in there about you without mentioning your name, and you'll recognize it when you get to it, because you're not done yet, right?
Mm-mm.
You'll it's in the healing section.
Oh,
So
healing.
yeah, you're not there
My
yet.
favorite word. How did you know?
When you read it, you'll be like, "Oh, that's me." We changed it so it wasn't so that it. And by the way, if you read it and you decide you don't want us to include it, I think you'll be fine with it, because it was
I'm
really.
not going to make y'all republish your book.
Well, it was basically us saying to you when we met you at CrimeCon, because you were debating whether what to do, and I said just
Mhm.
focus on your healing,
Yeah.
as if it's your job,
Right.
something like that.
I still remember what Nippy said too. I mean, yeah, that was such a big moment for me.
What did Nippy
Nippy, I
say?
remember you said, Nippy, you said something like, you know, getting myself right, physically getting your mind in the right place, like before you start. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it was kind of just getting my, you know, work on yourself, basically.
hmm
And it takes time, get yourself, and it was a health, you know, version of healing. And then, it takes years to start speaking. I mean, you should you should reset. You can say it better than me, but I mean,
probably said something to the effect of putting language to what happened to you is the best way to heal, I think.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't start speaking about it. I mean, you can still speak about it, but like, don't do anything that's going to make you leave your comfort zone.
Like, take care of yourself first.
And
yes. Okay, that's
you have
yes.
no obligation to do that, and you can stop a conversation whenever you feel like it, and make sure you put language to what happened. And if you get to a point like where you don't, you can just say, "Listen, this is where I tap out." And it's a constant thing of like putting language to it. And also, you have to understand. I guess speak for Sarah a little bit here, but like I was pretty peripheral to a lot of the abuse. You were ground zero in your situation in the abuse. You were in the crossfire every day. You were in it physically every day. I was peripheral, and I lived in another city part of the time. So, while it's the same, it's to the extent to which I got it, and is a fraction of yours, but the language is the same because the pattern recognition is identical. So for me, I wasn't dealing with the years of trauma that you had. In fact, I didn't get into take this training until I was 26, 27. So I had a kind of sense of the world myself before I got in it, and I had a lot to compare it to, but the pattern recognition and the coercive aspects of it are identical. And so putting language to like what happened to me sent me down a rabbit hole of like every time I have a conversation with someone, it's like the pattern is exactly the same. The degree of trauma in each person is different, if that makes sense, right? So it's case by case. So I'm not saying what was good for me is going to be good for you. I can say putting language to it is the start, and then turning it into wisdom and content for others to help them is what is an option for you, which, as I understand, is a lot of what you're doing. At least in terms of putting language to what Remnant does, and what Remnant did was probably a more drastic degree.
There's also physical violence involved.
Yeah.
Which we haven't even talked about.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, being branded as physical violence.
Yeah.
That's true. That just came at the end. It just came in the last few months.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah,
That's really
yeah.
good stuff. The pattern. Yeah. The pattern. Once you figure it out, it can be applied to other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's identical.
And then
right?
also you don't feel as alone, which I think is what may have
Mhm.
been also powerful for you when we met 3 years ago, is that, you know, you
Well, it just seems
you're
like
s
what you're
yeah.
saying. I mean, you'll have the techniques, if you will.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So it can be applied to anybody. It doesn't matter how severe. It
correct.
doesn't matter how big severe something is. It
Mhm.
makes total sense.
Correct. And think of it this way too. Everything that's happened, to varying degrees has happened before and it will happen again. Right. And the only
Mhm.
way to prevent it from happening again is really putting language to your own story and then turning it into wisdom for others. And people can
Well,
nip
I
these
want to
things
be
in the
ready
bud.
when another Gwen comes around
Well, I imagine
I'm sure you and
you might
and
HBO.
the
you
hair
might be
starts
in
growing on somebody.
yeah, you you might be in ways that you don't already know. And I imagine the pattern recognition as you start to understand it will be you'll catch it you'll catch it sooner than others.
Okay, Michael. So we kind of jumping around in the timeline, which is totally fine.
Thanks.
People can figure it out. I think, but I would like to just go back for a bit, because you talked about the moment where Gwen starts her own church and your music label gets dropped. How long after that do you decide to leave? And is there any other pivotal kind of emotional moments? And if you do ever decide to write a book, by the way, I know we talked about that a few years ago, those moments are the sort of the emotional junctures, like things are going one way and then you're like, yeah, no. And whatever you feel comfortable talking about. I know the doc mentioned that, you had your own ups and downs. Like, what was going on for you during all this time? You personally.
Hmm. I feel like maybe to frame that, I want to say like why I went along with it in the first part of Remnant.
Mhm.
I went along with it because I had never watched someone like Gwen who could who could stand up against a system like that, the male dominated religious system. So I was in awe at for the first few years. It was a form of admiration, and similar to like a form of admiration for like a group, going up against a system,
Right.
like incredible odds, like in Star Wars, like the rebellion. You're going against the Empire. It was that type of awe, and also just in awe of somebody that's not afraid to take a stance on something and hold it. I was never completely, all in with Remnant, won over. And so then after a time, I start getting disappointed because I see her start turning into this massive control freak. Um, so that's kind of the basics of how I um started. And so then as it goes on, you do have the stuff like we have a lot of early persecution and Remnant that affected me. I don't know if I should share this story because it may, have to be bleeped out or something. But um, like early on in Remnant, I remember people, threatening to burn Gwen at the stake. And, I'm like 21, 22 years old. And this is my mother still. Um,
Hmm.
and I remember during those years in 2002, there was a cardinal law of the Catholic Church. He was on the cover of I think Time Magazine or something. But it was right after all of these things were going on with the Catholic Church being exposed for a lot of the sexual abuse in the Catholic Church. A lot of and the Catholic Church ends up having to pay a lot of money to silence it. But Remnant was starting. We were getting all this persecution. Gwen's scaring us to death all the time in these sermons. People are threatening her. And so I'm kind of like in this militant state of mind a little bit. And, I remember being so um, horrified and so upset. I took a rifle one night and shot at a steeple across the street, um, like midnight. And shooting up, I was not even close to shooting anywhere near a person. And I realize now how stupid that was. You don't shoot a gun in the air like that because it can come down and hurt somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But I did that one time, and that's, it was a sign of how much I was upset at Christianity. I'm looking at all these people, and I start, over time, I start seeing these. I mentioned it to Drew Binsky, like I called it cracks in the walls of Jerusalem. And it was with people I was working with, and I started seeing these people running off with people having affairs. And then they can get on stage and they can lift their hands and they could smile. And that just bothered me to no end. It destroyed me. I just couldn't, I just wasn't that type of person. I didn't have that gear. And I was watching them, and people appear just like angels on the outside. And once again, that's appearances. I will say again, but they can waltz around a church, and they're like the pure as snow people. And then they're, I was almost like freaking out. I was trying to like follow people around and get proof that they were having affairs. There was all these sexual things going on with people and things like that. Um, and all I talked about was losing weight and Remnant. And I don't know. I just had this. I was scared in Remnant that I had given up everything. I lost my Christian music deal. I didn't get to have the college experience that I always wanted. I wanted to go to UT Knoxville, uh, and I didn't get to do that because of Remnant. So I missed out on that. Um, my reputation was destroyed because everybody in Remnant was hated by everybody in Nashville. Everywhere we go, people were staring. Gwen, you couldn't miss Gwen with the hair.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were hated, um, lost everything. Not lost everything, but you know what I mean. The only people you had friends with were in Remnant. Um, I was feeling like it had all been in vain. And we had so many wild experiences. People were threatening to snipe Gwen through the window at night. So we'd have to shut the curtains at night because when we met, because in her office, because people were saying they're going to snipe her. And I just couldn't believe this whole thing was happening. All this had happened, and now I'm seeing people running off and doing crap. So I am just like in this state of shock and seeing the cracks grow in the walls. And Remnant, the phrase in Remnant, it was a lot of it was rebuilding the wall based off, the Israelites coming back from Babylon and rebuilding Jerusalem. And they talk in the Old Testament, and they're talking about how the people they're building with one hand, putting blocks on the wall with one hand, and they're holding a sword with the other hand. And I felt like that's what was going on. But the thing is, our eyes were looking everywhere for enemies, but nobody was looking at ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't looking in at what we were doing. And so there's nothing normal about it. And so then over time, Gwen, like I said, she gets crazy controlling. She gets worse. She, not letting me work with people outside the church, like with music or people. And then I start seeing, the red flags, the big red flags. And I know y'all talk about that a lot with your podcast, but it's the Joseph Smith murder case, of course.
Mhm.
The child discipline in Remnant.
Right.
With that murder case too, I remember that going on, and Gwen wouldn't let me see the autopsy photos. And I was asking for them. She had them. And I was like, she's like, they're doing too much for you. They're too hard for you. And then she'd be like, just let me explain it to everybody. And one of the red flags was that, and then the child discipline, in the showdown spankings and things of that nature. You started seeing kids freaking out in the Remnant because their parents would get extreme. I saw kids leave, kids I knew, because their parents started putting all these rules on the fridge and just there was really ridiculous stuff going on. and locking them in their rooms and stuff like that. And you have RF. I started seeing the RF security team being built, like this army and Remnant, another huge red flag. And then when I found the guidance system, that was another big red flag.
What's that?
Oh gosh, the guidance system. I mean, do you really want to know? I mean, it's basically all of the information of every member. And I
Wow.
know other churches have this kind of stuff, but it is like I remember getting on the Remnant website one day in my office and seeing like they had this they had this thing where it was just like it's files on every single person in the church.
Wow.
And it's cataloging everything they've ever done, every doubt they have about Gwen. It's got a map of every member's homes on like a Google map type thing. We had our own remnant map. Um, it shows every bit of counsel every single person in the church is getting. It's a file, and they're long files. And I had evidence of that, and I presented it to Phil Williams of Channel 5 in Nashville when I did that, when the first time I ever came out and started doing interviews. Um, and so it just was a massive overreach of, privacy. It's a massive overreach of power within Remnant. All of the
And
information they got on everybody. Gathering information,
of
right.
for blackmail
Blackmail,
or
exactly. They get people. And I was telling people there, everybody felt so honored to come into Remnant, new people, and get up and give their testimony and tell everything about themselves. And I'm like, you guys, they're filming you so that in 1 year, when you're ticked off, they
Mhm.
have the video. It's collateral, like what you talk
Mm,
about,
Yep.
sir. I mean, it's what y'all
mhm.
talk about in Nexium. It's collateral. We just didn't call it that.
No, testimony has a better ring to it,
Hmm.
doesn't it?
Does it though?
I like that.
Let
Yeah.
me back up for a second. Was the glue sticks and the rods, like, were you and your sister also hit? Was that kind of discipline part of your upbringing, or did that come later?
Yes, we were we were spanked like, a lot of kids, but the worst stuff didn't start coming till Remnant, and we were by then adults, older.
Right. And you were an adult, and also at some point in this, and if you don't want to talk about your personal life in terms of your family, we don't have to. But or if you feel comfortable, like you got married, like
Mhm.
during your red flag time, were you also trying to raise a family? Or that?
Mhm. Yeah, and my marriage was kind of one of those things that kind of kept me in Remnant because I
Right.
had an arranged marriage, which I know it sounds ridiculous. This is 2026, the last time I checked, but we had, it was an arranged marriage, a full on arranged marriage where I was very young, 21, 22, and that was pushed on me. Had all the leaders in Gwen because they could control my ex-wife. She was a girl. They ran off other girls that I was dating, and she was the girl that was chosen for me. And I was the third wedding within Remnant. They number all their weddings, and I was number 3. And it was Gwen approved. And my ex, I always said to people, she was married to my mother.
Mm.
And that sounds
Right.
odd, but that's what it was. Her real spouse was Gwen because I could not confide in her. I really couldn't, or I
Right.
get
Mm.
turned in. Our entire marriage, I never had that. I didn't have this experience of meeting somebody and falling in love and,
Right.
we're going to make it us versus the world and all this stuff. I did not have that. It was completely arranged. I was not, I want to be careful how I'm not trying to,
No, but
down
Well,
her,
yeah,
but
you had a
I
lot
would not have
taken
put
away
it this
from
way,
you.
neither one of us would have married each other. I would not have
Correct.
married her.
Correct.
it sounds like
And
Gwen put somebody in your life that she could control you and make sure that it was like a
Mhm,
little having a mole implanted in your home, and that she was,
e
yeah.
exactly, they talked every single day. And in fact, I even remember once AirPods started coming out, she would sometimes, uh, have a drink of alcohol, and she would leave one of her AirPods laying around. So I would put it in. But things like that.
Yeah.
They talked about me probably 3 or 4 hours a day. Her and my sister and
Jesus.
Gwen.
That's
But
called
they talked about
triangulation.
everybody all the time. Mm.
Make sure you bring that to your next therapy session. Triangulation. So
Triangulation.
yes.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
don't like it.
It's what
no,
narcissists do.
narcissists do it a lot, and they do it to
Control.
control and make sure that you're like, think of the triangle, right? Instead of her
They
going
can
directly to
create
you,
problems whenever they want.
they can use the second person, also known as, and may not have gotten to this part of the book yet, a flying monkey from the Wizard of Oz. So it makes your wife and the other. I mean, it sounds like Gwen had a lot of flying monkeys, and actually, we didn't talk about this. When did you become Joseph Lara's stepson, and how was that?
Oh, goodness gracious. That was wow. I mean, how was it?
Yeah, like, did you see that train wreck coming a mile away, or was he charming? Like, I mean, I can only imagine what it was like from the documentary, but what was your perspective of that whole thing?
I mean, by the time that Joe Lara's coming around, I'm kind of just in a state of existing shock. So
Mhm.
like nothing shocked me anymore that Gwen would do. Um, I remember everybody was so just enamored with him. They were so blown away by him. He was in all these B movie type things, action movies, and country music star wannabe kind of guy. Um, Pilot, and he was an impressive guy. Um, but with Joe, I he was so fast tracked into the high position. He ended up being something like Gwen's bodyguard, and he was. I knew that he was nothing like. They were trying to position him like he's like some perfectly righteous, pure person. To the average member, and they're bending the reality like they always do.
Right.
I knew that he wasn't that, and I almost always felt like some sort of this is weird with somebody that threatened my life, but I felt a weird connection with him, like he was in a similar position as me.
Hmm.
Um, I he I think he was a little bit stuck. He had I actually cared about his ass, I would have tried to warn him, but there
Mhm.
was nothing I could do. And he was put into this. He did not know what he was getting involved in. How about that? Let's
Mm,
say that.
that's probably true.
Um, he, yeah, I mean,
He's a
we
grifter
were
too, though.
like, we were
right?
always uneasy. It was like uneasy type things. We're always,
Mm.
both of us were acting, I felt like by that point, because I'm obviously at that point gathering information and writing in a secret journal. And he's coming in and he's an actor. He's having to be on stage and walk Gwen up and hold her hand, um, lifting his hands up to God. I mean, do you really think Joe Lara was in church, like,
No,
praising
no,
God before? Like,
no.
no,
It's a
no.
grift for him.
Yeah, it seemed like
Um,
he was a parasite on her wealth, is what it looked like from the doc,
yeah,
anyway.
he swung into her life like
Yes.
Tarzan. But
Yeah, we get it.
Sorry.
I knew
Thanks.
triggered. I'm triggered. Um, I knew that he hated me though. He once, like one time, he wouldn't say it. He was very careful with his words. Because he's also like this. He was like as high as up you can get, like civilian sniper. He knew all these. He knew some Navy SEALs and all these people. So he was like very serious. He was a diver and all this kind of stuff. So he would act, he knew all these military guys.
Hmm.
He was extremely serious. Uh, but he one time so everything he did was calculated. He wasn't like silly like some of the other people could be, like being funny. So one time he sent me a picture of my newborn son with one of Gwen's obnoxious her witch cats in Ashlong. The cat was like climbing up the stroller, and he took a photo and sent it to me. I wasn't even there at the time. And it was just like, is that a threat? Is that a
Hmm.
it was weird. like the cat's about to jump on my baby, sleeping.
Just a
Um,
poor sense of humor.
he was. I actually think he was a monster in a lot of ways.
Mm.
Hmm.
But he was used to being able to get away with things. He was like this cowboy type guy. He was the type guy to walk into the bar and threaten people, that type of thing. And I was just a variable in his mind to be managed. He had his thing going there. And I was just maybe a little bit of a slightly threatening variable because
Right.
they were always concerned I was going to go to media. But it was very awkward. Um, and I didn't care about him getting the high position. I didn't want it. I was even at the time I was thinking of trying to use Joe to help get me out of Remnant because he
Hmm.
had all these contacts in media or Hollywood. I was actually going, look, because when they started talking about doing something with TLC, um, a reality show, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, hell, yeah, let's do it. Because as soon as we do a reality show, I'm going to do a spinoff or something.
Mhm.
This is my chance. If I finally get some recognition, I'll make people know of what's going on here. But Gwen would have none of it. She had to control everything.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say anything that narcissists can't curate, they don't participate in.
Right. And
Yeah.
I remember her even asking the guy who came from DLC, I remember her asking like about having editing privileges, like everything. And I'm like, you have to be able to work with somebody, to
Yeah.
do things like this. And that doesn't, like you said,
Right.
it doesn't occur to her that she has to work with somebody on editing. She has to have the say.
Wow. Okay, so you're stuck. You have this arranged marriage. You're watching your mother get grifted by a parasite B-level actor. You're trying to find your way out, but you're stuck. What's the final like, how do you actually leave?
Well, it would be the plane crash, really. After all that had happened, Joe, by the very end there, Joe gives me the sniper threat uh, before they die. A few months before they died, he threatened my life, which is kind of
I
wild.
didn't know that. What did
Yeah.
he do?
So I came over to Ashland one day and Gwen was like, "Hey, Joe wants to see you. He's out at the shed in the back." And so he had turned my dad had this like shed that he used to do like tinker around blacksmithing or something. So Gwen turned it into Joe's personal gym and he would make his own bullets out there. He had this whole thing like an armory. So I went out there to the back and um I walked into the barn. It was like a little barn and you know, he goes, "Walk in," and he tells me, just to come he's like at this wooden workbench and he picks up this Creedmoor sniper round. It's a big sniper round. And he puts it on the table. I'm trying to like do it with my hand. And he just says he didn't say anything else. He didn't say hi. He just says, "This is what I'm gonna take you out with." Or he said, "This is what he goes, "This is what we're gonna take you out with from 1,200 yards." And that's it. He didn't say anything else.
And
And so I just
what'd you say?
nothing. I just walked out and I went back and I went to lunch with my dad. And I told my dad, and he was like, "This guy's such an asshole."
Jesus.
But that's all he said. And because they knew though I had been writing in a secret laptop on a journal for years,
Mm.
but they couldn't find it. But they had seen some of it, but they knew I was like going one day to do something, go to media. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
'Cause
Um,
you at this
and
point,
so
you
he was just,
hadn't. You
I
at
had
this
not,
point
no,
no, you
no,
had your own
never.
family and you were living off the property.
I felt like I was in a prison at that point.
Yeah.
Well, you were.
Um, But I was taking stock of everything. Every meeting, I'm taking secret recordings. I'm always taking notes. I'm working against them, but I'm
M'kay.
playing the part because I
Mhm.
still get up on stage and sing worship songs and pretend. I
So
had two
you
lives.
you were Pimo. Have you gotten to that part in the book yet? Physically and mentally out?
I probably like read over
Yeah.
Pimo. Yeah.
Pimo.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens, and sometimes people don't leave just because 'cause they're in the community and they know where else to
That's
go.
exactly what I was. I was Pimo. Exactly.
Yeah,
Right. Where
Physically and
where are
and
you
mentally
with
old.
your
Yeah.
sister at this
Wait, hold
point?
on, can we
You
figure out
guys
how
are
they oh, you
so
mean this point?
how I
Yes.
left.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think to
Yeah,
answer the question, right.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
at that point, so you have the plane crash
Tell us about
and
where you were when you heard about that, by the way. I'm sure people have asked you that and whatever you wanted to share. That must have
mhm,
been I don't know, I can only imagine.
It's May 29th, wasn't it?
yes, May 29th. That's right.
It's my birthday.
That's why he remembers.
Oh, I
Yeah.
like that, Nippy.
Yeah, I thought you might.
Um, so I was driving down the interstate that day. Driving down the interstate, I get a call from my sister that she's getting calls from people that were on the ground, and she puts me and my ex on the phone, and she's like, "Oh, the plane went down," and she's like, they're dead." She knew it right off the bat. Um, and so I basically, like, even as she's talking, I'm like, what's going to happen with Remnant? That was my first thought.
Right.
Um, but Elizabeth, what I immediately realized, Elizabeth had already been placed in leadership instantaneously. They had had this plan in place for years to do this, to put her in that position. So, I mean, within the first hour of them down, Elizabeth is already getting treated like the leader. The assistants that were Gwen's are now reporting to her. So they've already got security guys going to Percy Priest Lake, getting, real time intel and on the phone with Elizabeth, updating her constantly, unbeknownst to me. So I realized that was going on. And I think my first thought, my first thought was actually a form of gratefulness. And I said this to Phil Williams, and I've said it to people. I never cried. Uh, I never have cried about it. It was actually happiness. Um, because like I said, Joe had just threatened me 2 months before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Gwen was just a monster. It was the witch is dead in my mind. And I remember calling my dad, walking outside and just calling him and letting him know, because the news started showing up on the news everywhere. And the very first conversation we had was it a suicide? Did
Hmm.
Joe do it on purpose? Um, but you know, and I'll be honest, I don't know if I want to get into that because it's
Yeah.
tricky
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, it
There was
is.
an
Yeah.
NTSB investigation, and they decided that it was pilot error. But
I mean, he didn't have a whole lot of experience, if I remember correctly, right?
he did have experience, but he wasn't qualified to fly that specific Cessna, that
Gotcha.
citation. Um, it's it's not like he didn't lack a commercial license, but I think he lacked that rating because like he was brand new to it was an advanced type aircraft for him. So it was moving too fast, right? He was moving too fast, too overconfident with that. Um, but anyway, it was that, but that to me though, when that happens, I we realized that nothing's ever going to be the same in Remnant again.
Mm.
And I I had so much abuse from a lot of these people that I just didn't have any emotions. There was no grief. So I was just thinking what's going to happen with Remnant. I was happy, I never expected that to happen. Um but so then Elizabeth takes over the church, and you know I see an opening, essentially. I see this being like, after everything that had happened, keep in mind I'd been followed for years by the security teams. I had been treated like the black sheep. Um, I knew even with when passing, with Elizabeth taking over, I'm not going to be given my salvation from them. I knew that was not gonna come. I'm still not gonna be free. And my wife was wanting out of our marriage at that point, and I knew, Elizabeth was Queen Elizabeth now, basically, and I'm like the rubber stamp brother, that's gonna be watched, and I'm still gonna be this black sheep, and I'm methodically being pushed out of any, major decision making. Um, I just knew I needed to leave at that point. That was to me there I always would talk about this to ex-members. I always felt like there's like a window, and that's just the best way I can come up with it. But like,
Hmm.
there's a window of a time to leave to me in in Remnant, and maybe it applies to other places too. But I would always tell people, look for the window because
Mhm.
it's going to be this one little time that uh, everything lines up and the stars align, and you've got a chance, and you could see it happen. A lot of times, it's impossible in your mind with family or all the circumstances, but just every now and then, there's this one little spot, and something will happen. It'll trigger it, and you have this window, and then that's your opportunity. And so, take it when you see the window. And that to me was my window to get out. Um,
I have goosebumps.
so the writing was on the walls to me, and there was one particular night that me and my ex were having a very difficult time, and even now with Gwen's estate, she wasn't supporting me. Uh, I was like, Elizabeth is ripping us off. This is the remnant attorneys are all siding with Elizabeth, and you're going to side with. I'm trying to protect our family and our children and make it equal, help our family out too. And she would just walk. She wouldn't talk to me. She just goes,
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with it. And I was on my own, and um, I knew my fate was sealed with the new regime. And so, Erin, my wife, she sided with Elizabeth on everything, just like she done with Gwen. And it was one sided. Everything was always one sided
Right.
against me. And the estates, the attorneys, everything. I could literally show people something on a piece of paper, black and white, proving that Elizabeth is lying or something, and they didn't want to see it. They walk off.
Wow.
And so that was the time. That was the circumstance. And that just happened to be my window. It was that fight. It was that, getting the false accusations, the leadership treating me like that in the plane crash. And so then I take off, to I go get a rental house. I'm sleeping on the I resigned from the church. I knew I had to resign, and I I I take off, and it was like a nightmare, to be honest. That that time, that month. Um, you know, I lost contact with everybody, and I knew it was gonna happen. I had seen it happen with so many people in Remnant, so I did have a little advantage because I knew these things were gonna happen
Mhm.
ahead of time. But it still is not fun. I lost contact with absolutely everybody that I'd been around for 25 years.
Wow.
Um, and my phone, it went from getting hundreds of texts a day to like zero. And, maybe like the trash company text me or something, there's no contact. And um I moved to a rental house which in Spring Hill, which is kind of south of Nashville. And it was not great. I was sleeping on the air mattress for several months, and there happened to be rats in the house. And so I slept with a machete next to me at night on the floor because there were rats. And there was this guy that owned it, the Chinese guy, and they didn't tell me. So there were rats, and so I like put towels underneath my door with like weights on them, trying to keep the rats out. Um, I would chase them at night with my machete. And
This is not good for PTSD, by
um,
the way. Just
No.
a little.
but I was having to deal with Elizabeth's remnant attorneys at that point because
Mhm.
So now Gwen's estate is kicking up after the crash. I'm kicked out. I leave slash I'm kicked out because they're making it impossible for me. They were saying, uh, I had one of the leaders in Remnant, saying we have to address the elephant in the room type thing when I was like in the sanctuary in front of people, just there were lots of things going on. But they had already planned, Elizabeth was already going to be the leader. Gwen had already worked on that for years. And I call it the women's movement. It was going to be a woman, her daughter, bloodline. And so this was just the progression. And we also were getting sued at the same time for $10 million for a wrongful death lawsuit. One of the families of one of the girls that died on the plane crash, they were suing us for 10 million. But so I'm in, and I'm getting a divorce at the same time, and I'll lose everybody. So um, I'm going through this horrific phase. So, I one time I think I have a heart attack in this place because at night I'm sitting there like my kids are going through my mind. I'm in the dark, and you know I don't know what's going to happen really. And
Right.
HBO was about to come out. That was another thing. The documentary was just about to come out.
Oh, that's right.
So there was all these things happening at the same time, and I was hearing from people saying it's going to be really bad for me. Um, they're like, "Oh man, Michael's about to get nailed on this documentary." So I was getting so messed over. My hair was falling out like in clumps from stress. It was
Yeah.
just falling out. And so I checked myself into Williamson County ER one night because I thought I had a heart attack. I didn't. I just thought I did. Um, and I remember the doctor. He was a super smart guy, and I'm like, "This is a hard." He goes, "I go so stress can be physical." I said, "This is physical pain, like in my chest, like physical." And he goes, "Yes, stress can be physical pain." And that was the first time I ever
Mm-hmm.
had heard that. I didn't know that. I thought stress was just some, you know, I don't know,
Abstract emotion. Yeah.
abstract emotion, right?
Yeah.
And
It's not.
stress is physical pain.
You have to
And
process it.
and so that's going on. And I was thinking HBO is about to make me look like a terrible person. I was dreading that. I did have thoughts of suicide at that time period. Um, and I went through a phase where I stopped turning on the lights in the house. And that's when I wrote a song. I called it Down. I wrote a song. I was going through a real deep depression at that point, and I was just using candles, essentially, just light candles and to write or something. And then like I said, I wrote that song down, which it's on my YouTube. I've never put it up, like it's not out there, but it's on my YouTube channel. But
We'll check it out.
Michael, I'm just going to share this with you. I don't know if it's going to help, but it helped me in a way of like kind of putting the thing into perspective. I remember having a conversation with my dad when we were going through our shit. And I was like, yeah, it's like I'm experiencing like depression. And my dad goes, yeah, well, no shit, Nippy. and
I
I don't think he meant it
like
in a
that.
way to be like,
Hmm.
like dismissive, but it was like, yeah, you just went through this. Like, if that's not going to cause you stress, what the fuck, what will? And it gave
Oh,
me
that's good.
permission. It gave me permission to feel it because I don't know, you never know how you're going to respond to situations until it happens, right? You can have an
Mm-hmm.
intellectual understanding of yourself, but it's not exposed to you until it happens. And then when you're
Right.
experiencing it, it doesn't make it any better, you know?
Right. I
But
love that. I mean, I
yeah,
love that. And I feel like that's so good because it's like, I think a lot of times too, I mean, I think maybe men don't get told that enough, possibly.
like it's okay.
Um,
That was my dad's like way of saying, yeah, it's okay. And this is a valley and
right,
You'll be
right.
the peaks and valleys, it's the if poem. It's like you treat those two imposters just the same, right? And
Huh.
so, you know, this too shall pass. Well, it's same with the peaks, right? Oftentimes you peak and you come back down and and as long as it's a stock market and it keeps going up, you can turn those valleys into wisdom. It
Mm.
sounds like you're on your way to doing that and have done that.
When there was one other thing too that I've never really mentioned. I didn't mention to Phil Williams. It's not on the documentary, but I also had a stalker too at the same time that
Shit.
was trying to kill me. So she tried to kill me like 5 times.
What?
So when I was in Remnant security would stop her and get her arrested in coordination with Brentwood PD. So when I leave, I lose my protection there. Um,
Who
so
is this girl or woman with
her name's Jackie Furlong. Jackie's a great name for a stalker. She's she's been stalking me since 2010.
What the still?
what was her
Yeah,
deal?
she still
Still?
is. Uh-huh. She just lost her mind. She was actually a member of Remnant. I always tell them, like, I wish that had made it in the documentary, but um, she was a member of Remnant Fellowship Memphis, and she was married and had 4 kids. I had never met her, and of course, she was a gun collector and a knife collector, and I never met her, and we actually have proof of that because she started writing me letters, and she started losing her mind, and she started seeing like messages and codes in Gwen's sermons and also like in my song lyrics. And she started feeling like God was telling her that me and her were supposed to be married. And so, you know, I remember here I remember hearing from a security guy, that she was there the night that Gwen found out, she stayed to be she was like in council with Gwen at the Remnant. She came to Nashville and was in council with her in her office on a Wednesday night service. And Gwen walks outside to this guy who was also a police officer. And Gwen walks over to the security guard and she like digs her nails into the guy's arm and she's like, "This woman is crazy." And so she's like, "Walk me to my car, get me out of here." And so then Remnant starts, giving her orders of protection to stay away from Remnant, uh, to stay away from me. And but no matter what, it wouldn't work. She would keep coming back. And it
Jeez.
didn't matter how many times she got arrested. She's been arrested 15 times. Um, and all of her criminal charges and convictions are because of me. And so now she's at the level of especially aggravated stalking. And so eventually it kept like one of the times like we were going to Denver for some Remnant event. She books a ticket for the same flight at BNA and she shows up. She's got one of her children has Down syndrome. She leaves the kid in the car out front because she thinks she won't be arrested if she brings a Down syndrome kid with her. Like she's using it like a human shield.
Wow.
So she gets on the line, and the police have to come arrest her at the airport because she was trying to get on the same flight as me and my ex. She sent me letters every every day. She's writing letters, and Remnant for many years I didn't know about it until because Remnant was intercepting them from me because they thought I had done something wrong. They thought I had like had an affair or something, and she was mad. So finally, one day, but these are like not letters, 60 to 100-page letters she'll write them from prison or what she's been in mental
What the
institutions
hell?
several times. Um, she's been in Rolling Hills, which is here in Franklin. Um, but so they were screening her for those first several years in Remnant, because Gwen, they were suspecting, me, and they never explained it um, to me. And then one day, thankfully, she finally mentions in one of these big letters, she goes, "I know we've never met," in her letter, and it proves it right there. And
Yeah.
so that same day, the head of Remnant Security, he walked into my wait on office, and I'm sitting at the desk, and he's like, you could tell he's like frustrated. He's mad. He drops this huge pile of letters right in front of me, and he lets me know about the stalker. I'm like, what? I didn't. I was too smart to have some sort of angry reaction. I was already playing the game, so I was like, oh my goodness. And um, anyway, I
That's
was like,
nuts.
whoa, like thanks for letting me know. And so and the security would be following her when she gets out of jail. And so what she would do, she would get out of jail and she would immediately go get a hotel room and she would buy something to look like my wife, like a wig.
Jesus.
She would wear a wedding dress and socks. And so she got arrested at Remnant. She would drive right to Remnant or wherever she thought I was. And they would just Remnant security is tracking her. So they're following her which is kind of shady in itself because they did that to other people like me. Um, but so anyway, she would drive and then they would coordinate with Brentwood police and they would be there just to pick her up when she shows up. And she would be arrested. She was arrested with knives in her car and she was going to kill me with knives. And and I remember talking to a detective in Brentwood and he said, female stalkers like to kill with knives. Men stalkers kill with guns. So I didn't know that. I've learned a lot about stalking
Yeah.
since then. She's unstable. She's delusional. Being arrested means nothing. And like she would wear socks, and she told the police, she goes, "I wear socks because I know the jail floors are cold." So she's been arrested that many
Yeah.
times. So this recent time, she was in prison for 9 years. She served 9 years. Eventually, finally got to that point.
Jesus.
And then when she got out, which was the same year my dad died, 2023, uh, just 2 or 3 years ago, she finally got out of prison. And then what does she do? She drives straight to, uh, Franklin, gets a hotel. She starts writing me on social media immediately.
Jesus.
She just got out of prison. Like it was an 9-year sentence. And so I'm having to go to court during this time too without security. So when she's out. So that added to, I guess my whole point
You were
with that was
stressed.
it added to the stress. It was nerve-wracking.
No wonder you thought you were having a heart attack. That's
Stalker
even the stalker portion of your life
would be enough.
is enough to, create stress on your heart and your heart palpitations or whatever it was. It's crazy.
But anyway, she's now in jail again. So,
Oh, good.
and they tell me the ADA, the assistant district attorney, I talked to her. She's like, everybody in the legal system in Nashville and Brentwood and Franklin knows who she is, all the police. And they're like, whatever happens to her, she's not getting out. So that makes me feel a lot better.
Good. So, okay. So the plane crash, divorce, your window, and I just wanted to say something. I didn't want to interrupt when you were talking, but I totally agree about the window. And I think that should be the soundbite that we should post because I think that's a really helpful piece of information for people. And in some situations, if someone's listening and they're in a situation whether it's domestic violence or cult of one, with an abusive partner, it's the same kind of thing. Like have your passport ready, like have a hidden bag packed so that if that window does come, you can leave. And it's really good advice. We definitely had a window. We jumped.
Yeah, we had one window.
Yeah, we jumped through it pretty quickly.
It's a portal.
Yeah, portal to reality.
And look at the results. I mean, look what happened because y'all did that.
Yes.
Had you not,
we had lucky.
Yeah.
We got a little bit lucky along the way.
Yes,
Yeah.
but so
look at all the things that have happened because y'all did, have been on the vow and done all that stuff. I mean,
thanks,
think of all the people that have been, all the awareness that's been raised because of it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I think that's, and you as well. I think that's really, really good advice. We'll make sure that's the soundbite. So you have been you've been sort of struggling at it alone for a bit, and you're very much alone. I'm just aware of the time, and we do have kid pickup shortly. So why don't we, as best as you can, I guess shortly after all this happened, you meet Ken. He brings you to CrimeCon. I suggest a therapist. We keep in touch. How are you now? Like, where is your life now? I notice you're wearing black and you've got black paint all around you. Are you still in the dark hole? Are you coming out of the dark hole?
I am. Black to me is more of something. It's a symbolic thing. I have talked about it. It's more of a persona of somebody that's just being ready for false religious people. But I would say how I am now, it's, yes, as far as I'm on the track of, let's say, I'm going against the remnant still. And I don't want to, how do I explain this? Like, coming out of a hole. I don't. I'm trying to think of it. I really am.
All right.
No, it's okay. Take your time. Well, let me ask you something.
I
Okay, you go.
well, I was just gonna say, supposedly I'm free from Remnant,
Hmm.
and the people, all these women and people monitoring me and all these things. I still feel like I keep hearing these women's accusations sometimes
Like
in
in
my
your
head.
head.
Hmm. And it's depression. It's been something I've had to tackle. Um, there has been dark times. I mean, to be honest, I think honesty is the best policy.
Yeah.
And therapy, it's helping. And I've started taking sertraline, and
Is that an
you know,
antidepressant?
mhm,
Yeah.
Zoloft, and I'm trying to, increases your serotonin, right? Um, but somehow I feel like there's a part of me, and this may sound weird, but there's a part of me on the inside that wants to fight that happiness. And I don't even like I almost don't want to feel better. And I don't know how to describe that, but I sometimes think like the way I describe it to Dr. Laura Anderson is I don't want to lose this fire,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Like you're afraid that if you're happy, then you'll lose the urge to fight.
Maybe.
Yeah, I get that.
Or people sometimes I've had people say, you could be on a beach drinking margaritas and things of that nature. Um, I don't know fully why I'm still doing this, but I feel like it's something that I'm supposed to be doing. Um, exposing Remnant, this campaign that I'm doing on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't feel like it's a righteous. I'm not saying I'm righteous. It's not a righteous campaign, not a crusade. Um, but it's been effective, and I'm trying to keep a decent relationship with my kids. I feel like it is decent, and they're
That's
still in
good.
Remnant, and I love them very much. It's awkward sometimes, and I always try to make it clear, like the day you want to talk, I'll be here. I'll anything you need. And I know it's confusing for children whose parents are not in a church or
Right.
cult or vice versa, and they're in the bubble.
Hmm.
But I'm
Right.
holding out hope that they're going to find a way, just like Gwen. Circling back around to Gwen and my dad. Remember when I said she's always bad mouthing him to us all the time
Hmm.
Yeah.
behind his back? Well, guess what? Guess who I end up becoming best friends with in the end? It's my dad.
Yeah.
And people have a way of seeing through things.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
it finds a way. We like to use the Jurassic Park movie line, life finds a way or something. Truth finds a way. The reality finds a way.
Totally.
And as far as like Sarah, what you're like healing,
Hmm.
I know I've joked about like the word, like my least favorite word is heal, or I use it like a curse word or something. And I say like it's a difficult situation for me because like in my mind, I don't know if I would ever want to heal like some people talk about it.
Hmm.
Um, and I know this is just me being brutally honest
No,
here.
you should be.
It's not that I wouldn't mind a break from these situations because I'm
Right.
still going at it with Remnant. Still, it's a choice basically, but it scares me to distance myself from it. Um, partially because I think I'm doing a big disservice to people that are still there. Partially because of my kids. Um, I just don't know. Sometimes the interest in healing is what I've tried to psychoanalyze myself, believe me. And I've talked to Dr. Laura about it. Like I said, it's keeping that fire. I've had that since 2010. I've been this mode. And, the moving on, the whole thing about moving on, getting out and doing things. Um, I know these are like super important things. These are really important topics, and m- maybe there's a time, Nippy. I mean, you said at the very beginning it's okay to take a break for a second, and I don't have to respond, or I can walk away or whatever. I kind of feel like I don't know that I have the answer
Mm.
to this right now. The
That's
therapy
okay.
sessions
It's
are
okay to
working.
be there
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Hmm.
I
I
I had
What?
I gotta go.
yeah, 5 minutes?
Okay.
Let's wrap it up. Go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we're
just
You
wanna
can continue.
yeah, I
I
just
just
wanna
have to go get.
he's gonna have to pick up the kids in a minute, but
Okay.
I just wanna share something with you and take it for what it's worth. Like, this is just my experience, but I think it's an interesting metaphor. I was listening as you were talking, as to, like, that choice, and I realize also the word heal has, like, a Christian meaning to it that we don't have, that, like, "I'm gonna heal you, the Lord will heal you," or salvation is
hmm
probably all mixed up in that.
hmm
Is that right?
It's possible. Yeah, like
Yeah.
maybe I wish there was another word
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, let's forget healing, because I think, and you'll read about this in the book, the term loaded language, healing means something different. So let's not use that word. Okay, that's one thing. Second, again, for what it's worth, take it or leave it. I I had a brand on my body, as you know. I had Keith Renner's initials on my body, and I kept that on there for a while, and I tried to, like, you know, my version of getting better or healing was to, like, try to get it removed. I was putting cream on it to make it flat and
Hmm.
make it go away, and at the same time, I wanted it there because I wanted to show people what had been done to me, and I felt like people weren't really outraged until they saw that, because, like, otherwise, I'm a pretty, like, I would've, like,
It was the
what's the
cover of
harm?
your book.
He's gonna cover my book, yeah, and, but, like, if you looked at me otherwise, I'm fine, right? Like, I'm alive, I'm fine, but I to get people to feel how wrong it was, what was done to me, I had to show them the brand, physical
Yeah.
abuse.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because I feel like there were times when like, I was trying to move on or heal or whatever the fuck, but if I did an interview, if I wasn't, like, showing how pained I was and how hard it was, then, like, it was incongruous? What's the word?
Incongruous.
Incongruous? Like, it wasn't like, it's a hard thing to say, "Hey, this isn't right, and, you need to stop what you're doing, Remnant Church, Vanguard," whatever it is that we're calling out, and also be happy. Like, I think that's what as I'm hearing you talk, it's like, how do you move on and do normal things and, like, take your kids to baseball and also call out abuse? Like, it's just I don't have an answer
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
But I'm just saying to you, like, I
It's
understand.
not light work.
Yeah, like, what you're doing
No.
is it might feel like it's not consistent to, like, go have a margarita on a beach and then be like, "And fuck you, Remnant Church," you know what I mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
it doesn't, maybe that doesn't, I don't know. Whatever it is, all I know for us moving on was, like, taking our kids to baseball and l
The
and
day to day.
the day-to-day that, like, our kids in many ways kind of forced us to put that other stuff aside, and also, we had a different type of, the FBI stepped in, Keith went to jail. You don't have
You've
that
had a
kind of
little more
closure.
Different kind of closure.
Yeah,
closure.
Yeah.
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 So, I think a closure would allow that possibly for you. I just
Which is gonna take time.
It's gonna take time, and also, there may come a time, and you might wanna decide this for yourself or with Dr. Laura, but, like, when is it enough? When have you done your part? Like, when do you say, "Okay, I've warned everybody,
And you may have already.
You may have, yeah. You'd be like, "I rang the alarm. Everyone
There's been a
knows."
lot of people that have left because of my social
Yeah,
media
Yeah.
and that's
stuff
yeah,
and
like,
interviews like
yeah,
this.
write down their names, take
One
a look at the list.
one friend of us said you're gonna have to step over bodies on the way out, and that's kind of the term. You're gonna just have to leave some people behind, you know.
Hmm.
I'm gonna just let Nippy go, and then I'll wrap
Yeah.
up with you. So,
Sorry, I had to go I had to pick up my kids.
No,
My
it's
fault.
fine.
But
Thank you,
thank
Nippy,
you.
for
Yeah,
everything.
of course. Thank you too. Anytime you want to talk, just give me a shout.
I extremely appreciate it.
You got it.
Thank
I
you.
hope to see you this fall.
Yeah.
I might be up
Okay.
there. All right, buddy.
All right.
and I'll wrap up with you. Okay, bye, babe. Yeah, I just want that for you. That's I wanna come over there and paint that room, like, hot pink or just even white.
Oh, oh, you better not. Whoa. Whoa, one step at a
One
time
step
here.
at a time. Okay,
Sure.
I won't do that. But it's you know what I mean? Like, I'm obviously not gonna do that, but it's just I want just know that what you surround yourself with is important, and
Mhm.
you're just even looking at you, and I've known, ever since I met you, your dark glasses, and I know it's a persona and it's partly to show, but I also just wanted to give you permission to, like, let that go at some point, just as a friend who's been through it.
Hmm. Noted.
Wish I could give you a big
Very
hug.
noted.
I just it's just man, you fucking been through it. You've been through it, man, like, so hard.
Things like this do help, though,
Does
like
that?
getting to talk about it. In some ways, this interview is therapy for me, and so for that, thank you. Thank both of you.
Of
Um,
course.
these opportunities, to speak, to say something, because I really couldn't say anything for so long.
Mhm.
I'm not that type, but uh, it does. These things, this does do something. Therapy does do something. Remnant would have said therapy has no value. Just get your therapy from Gwen and her leaders council.
Well, of
But
course, because they
therapy
wanted full
does have
control.
value.
They wanted
Right.
control over your mind.
But
Yeah.
it was a fear that people would find value in it.
Mhm.
And there is value in people learning about these things, like your book. And it
Mhm.
it, it is valuable. It is worth it. Um so this is helpful to me.
I'm so happy to hear that. And I would love to know what you think. There's 2 appendixes at the end of the book that are specifically about, like, how to deal with the media, how to write a cult memoir, things that are
Mm,
very niche for a small group. You're part of the group,
mm.
the survivor group. So I hope you get to the
I will
end.
say
Yeah.
well, I
Yeah.
will say this too about the book too.
Mm.
Like if people in that are in Remnant still or that have left Remnant, if any of them are still maybe struggling with how they feel about Remnant or Gwen or all these confusing feelings, I do recommend the book because, I think it will maybe help take away those doubts that they
Mhm.
have from a place like Remnant, which it is a cult. So I would suggest it in that manner.
Yeah. Are you in touch with a lot of survivors?
Oh yeah, every day.
Well, send them the link. I mean, I'd be so curious to know what people have thought who didn't go through a bunch of, cult education or weren't talking to a therapist.
Right.
Um, it's in my sorry, just one second, Michael, we'll cut this part out. It's in my I don't know, I think you put it with the other cards. It's in my car in the console. Just take your car key, grab it on the way out. Sorry, we'll cut that out. Um, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, in regards to the book.
Letting them know. No, I
Yeah,
am going
yeah.
to let people know about it. In fact, I'm going to post it on social media.
Thank
Um,
you. Thanks so much. I'm gonna send you an easy link to post so that they can just
oh,
grab it
great,
easily. And it will be on
great.
Audible soon. I know that one of the reasons we wanted to
Hmm.
do Audible is because we know that a lot of cult survivors can't, um, myself included, I don't read. I don't can't sit still long enough. So that's
Hmm.
also I just sent you the text. That's something that happens. So we're hoping the Audible will be something that will help people who just want to hear it. But what was I gonna say about that? I don't remember. Oh, I just had one more thought. I know, like, there's a certain type of you were born into this, so this might not be a thing for you, but I had a certain zealotry around building Nexium, and it was very mission oriented. We're, saving the world, and there is a flip side to that often on the other side. I was just as mission oriented on the other side in terms of, like, saving the world, but saving the world from cults. So I feel like that was something that I had to kind of, like, check myself on the other side to make sure I wasn't, you know, not taking care of myself or, it's the same
Right.
kinda drive,
Yeah,
right?
and I would
Yeah.
love to hear more of that.
Yeah.
If you do more things on that, or
Mhm.
that is it's such an interesting point because it's so real. I mean, that's
Mhm.
everybody has to deal with that who's been involved with something.
Yeah, well, it feels purposeful and it feels, um,
Mhm,
you know, it's sort of part of the hardwiring. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Like, it's just sort of like what you do. We're still saving the world, but we're saving the world from this.
Look, I also felt a little obligation, you have to
Yeah.
understand, because I'm the highest up leader that's ever left Remnant,
Mhm.
and
It's a huge responsibility.
I was in a position that I did know about the guidance system, and a lot of other people didn't, and I did know about the security team abuses and all the stuff, the council going on, the text. So I do feel or at least I did, I feel an obligation. I feel like something bigger was causing this. Like I was in this position all of a sudden to speak out
Mhm.
because so many people are scared to speak out. That's the one thing I would just, HBO, the documentary, they frame it as when Gwen died, all of a sudden all these people were free to share their stories and reach out to
Mhm.
like Nal Capello. And I don't I don't see that freedom. I think they're
Mhm.
still scared because Elizabeth took right over the regime
Right.
and people are being kicked out for talking. So anyway,
Well well, if anyone happens to listen to this who's on the fence, what would you want them to know?
mm, if anybody, listening, that maybe they don't subscribe to everything that I say, maybe about the women being leaders in Remnant or the women's movement, or maybe they don't subscribe to they don't think it was as bad as what I say. I I would just say I've been wanting to say these things for so many years about Remnant, how a place like this, it's not to be trifled with.
Mhm.
Um, what happened with Gwen, with Way Down, all those millions of people in the 80s and 90s, and the eating disorders and all of the abuse that has happened since then, and then Remnant. Don't take it too lightly. I don't think it's something, people, I think they've started saying, like there's a cult on there, everywhere now, right? There's so many cults out there. Don't take it too lightly. It's not something to just ignore because I do worry that these things can be repeated. Um, all of these things can be repeated. And the dangerous situations, the teachings, the abuses, it's happened before, and Nippy said it. It's happened many times before. It will happen again, and people need to pay attention. I believe, if they're listening, pay attention to what ex members say, ex remnant members say. Pay
Mhm.
attention to these interviews. Pay attention to what y'all are saying. Pay attention to the cult experts. Um, don't write it off. Pay attention to the documentary, even if it's not your cup of tea. Listen, pay attention to it, take it seriously. Um, I'm still, like we're talking about moving on and healing. I'm still, I guess, technically on this move that I'm doing what I'm doing. I hope that I see the day that remnant doors are closed. Um, and I think there's a lot of these pockets of people that have taken Gwen's stuff out. They're out there, and I just want people to be mindful of
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think my story is a big happy story. It may not be the happy ending, perfect story like a movie uh, that people, want to see sometimes. But at least we can learn from things. And just like Nexium would not have been anything close to like a perfect situation for you and Nippy, but it's with Keith Raniere, but people can learn from it.
Mhm.
And I just hope people take something out of all this, that they're not it's not this isn't just, it's a podcast, but it's not just entertainment.
Right.
It's a learning thing. And I do hope people that are in Remnant still, I do hope they get to hear this, because now they're followers and worshipers of Elizabeth, just like people were followers of Gwen.
Mhm.
And if they don't think the same stuff's going to happen to them, it will. It's been damaging, and it's not just me. It's a
Mhm.
lot of people, and there's a lot of people that are never gonna get to talk like this, with, Sarah Edmondson and Nippy Ames, but,
I feel the
this
same about you, Michael.
well, it
We've been
this
wanting
is
to
a big
talk to you.
opportunity for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
This is this is
Well,
a big opportunity that
mm,
I really
mm,
appreciate y'all doing this, and I appreciate, like I said, when I got to meet y'all at the Crime Con. Y'all are celebrities there. Your people are lining up to meet y'all, but y'all were so welcoming to me, uh, because at that point, I really had lost everybody.
yeah.
Um, both parent everything everybody was dead, gone, and I really appreciate you like texting me and you're like, you need to get this to Dr. Laura and you need to do this and this and Nippy said the same thing. And so I y'all have been really super cool about this. And it's very much appreciated. And your podcast is appreciated and your new book's appreciated. Um
Thank
anyway.
you. So much mutual appreciation. We posted on our Patreon this morning to see if anyone had questions, and everything that they asked we've covered in terms of your what people wanted to know. But Marianne wrote that many people are rooting for you, and I think that that's maybe what you don't
Mm,
get the feedback of, and I think you will after this episode drops, and we'll make sure to collab with you and stuff on your social media so you can see that. But I really do hope that this gives you a little
mm.
um, wind in your sails, to do whatever is right for you. And if that's staying exactly where you are and right now, then that's for you. And if you decide to paint your room, I'll come over with some overalls and a bag of paint or a can of paint and
You're
help
not
you.
making it into the Black headquarters with a can of hot pink paint, is
Look
all I
at
can
my
tell you.
thermos. Look at my nails.
You'll trigger all the security systems.
I don't think pink's
No,
your color. I don't think pink's your color. But I'm just,
Mhm.
I want to, I want to help uplift you. And I know that you're on that
Mean that. I know you
trajectory.
mean that.
Yeah. But that's that's my journey.
Your journey is in some ways more difficult than my journey.
I don't
To paint
know.
my room pink?
Oh, well, that journey, yes. That journey. Yeah.
Your journey. Oh, you meant your journey,
Yeah.
not your
Or
side quest.
it's not my side quest. See, this is my problem is I do, you know,
Let's be
like
honest
to
here,
this
Sarah.
yeah.
If I showed up on the screen, the Zoom screen, and I had pink walls, you would think something's wrong, and you
How
you
about just
know it.
white walls?
Just admit it. You know it.
How about white wall? How about some maybe lime green with a like
Mm,
or turquoise? No, you get my point. I just want you to have the opportunity to live your life, And if
mhm,
that's whatever color that is.
mm,
Because you never got
love
to,
that.
You never got to. And I think that's
Mm,
a really, you know,
mhm,
a really big point that people aren't gonna get anywhere, but especially even my cult recovery space, like a lot of us that chose our cults or, signed up for something. You never signed up for it. You never had that choice. You never had a life away from a narcissist. And I
mhm,
think, Gwen's hair is an indication of how her, how that grew. It's a
mhm.
metaphor, right? For that
That's
inflation
right.
of her head and her power. And sounds like she was like that from
Her
the
hair had
beginning.
a mind of its own. I'll add
Yeah.
my own 2 cents to it. The hair knew the whole
Oh,
time.
one thing I forgot to ask, and then we'll end on this note. I couldn't figure out how to watch it, 'cause, there's all these, like, whatever on my computer, but what did you think of the Lifetime movie with Jennifer Grey
Oh,
playing
Starving for Salvation?
Yeah, how was that for you?
I thought they did a fantastic
Oh,
job
good, I'm so
because,
happy to hear that.
well, the story is such a long there's so much to the whole story, really, with
Mhm.
Way Down and then Remnant and Gwen and the plane Joe and the plane crash, and it's a lot. I thought they did a good job putting that into a 2-hour movie. I mean, I may go watch it tonight again. I will say I especially loved the part where the guy who plays me is like gets into tiffs with Gwen. He
Wait,
gets a little chippy.
I have to
He
look
gets
it up
he
on who I'm just looking it
have
up
you
on IMDb because I don't know if you know this, but it was shot in Vancouver, so when it was
I
being
know it's yeah,
shot
was a Canadian director, John LeCure, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know the director, John le Carré, but I know, like, a bunch of my friends from Vancouver in it. Gabrielle Miller is an old friend of mine, played Emily.
Oh, you knew
Joe
some people in
Cobden.
it?
Oh my god, Joe Cobden and I went to theater school. She played Gary. Karen
Oh.
Cleach played Natasha. We did shows together years ago. Korea oh, no, it was filmed in Montreal, not, was it
Who's
was
the
from
guy that
Montreal or
played J
Vancouver?
who's the guy that played Joe? Because I thought he did such a good Joe.
Vincent Walsh, I don't know him, but, like, I do
He nailed
he
Joe. That was so
oh.
good.
Oh, I don't know Vincent
Jennifer Grey,
Walsh.
though, I mean, Jennifer Grey is
She
like
nailed it.
I can't believe the fact that the woman who was in Dirty Dancing now plays my mother on a movie. Why don't you put that as
Oh
a that's a
my
soundbite.
god, that
There's a
is the
soundbite.
soundbite. I have to write that down. The girl who was in Dirty Dancing plays my mother on the movie. I'm writing that down right now. That has to be the soundbite. What time is this? Girl who played Please don't edit this out, editors. That's so great. So Joe Cobden, who played Gary, I don't know who Gary is, but he's an old friend of mine. Gabrielle Miller, oh my goodness, Karen Cleach
So
played
you know
Natasha.
a lot of these people on this movie.
Yeah, there's,
I
like,
mean,
acting friends of mine from when I was an actor.
like,
How
holy cow, that's
crazy.
so awesome.
Yeah, but the fact that the girl from Dirty Dancing plays your mother is just like,
Well, of
how
course she would.
well, and I'm so happy that you're happy with it because the Lifetime version of the Nexium story was not accurate and just really hard to watch. But I also watched it at a very bad point in my healing journey, so
Mhm.
maybe I'll give it give it a fresh
Why don't
watch.
you get a glass of wine and give it one more shot?
How about this? Because this episode, I think, is everyone's gonna love it. What we could do a watching our Lifetime movies episode together.
A reaction video.
Yeah. I don't know how to do that
Yes.
technologically. I don't know
Oh,
how what that looks like.
the sex scene with Gwen and Joe. Just
Is there one?
you get I don't wanna oh, no, I'm not gonna give away everything.
Okay, I better watch it.
It's I had to be drinking heavily when I watched it for the first time,
Ooh,
but
that's
sorry to
tough.
admit that to people,
It's
but
tough.
I couldn't do it, but it's when there is a scene I'll let you experience it, but when she's, like, in her negligee and Joe comes in his Tarzan thong or something,
Oh my god.
and there's, like, a sex scene, I'm like, "Oh my goodness. This is not happening," but anyway.
This is your life. Embrace it. Oh my goodness, but Michael, this has just been such a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm glad that we could, you know, finally do this, and it was the
Me
right
too.
time. There we were here, and we were extended that offer from the beginning, and I feel like this is the right time. And if you ever want to,
I agree.
come do
I'm
more,
sorry it didn't
yeah,
happen earlier, but
yeah,
honestly, I think you're exactly right, like, it just needed this time.
yeah.
Enough
We
things have happened that
I
this is
totally agree. And the last thing I'd ever want to do is have somebody on the podcast that wasn't comfortable or ready or like that it would be re-traumatizing. We always want this to be a positive experience. So
mm.
I'm glad it happened when we did. And I can't wait to do the reaction to the Lifetime movies
Oh, that's
at
gonna
some point.
be oh, we could kill that.
We could totally kill that. We are building a YouTube studio in here, like not well YouTube, like a place to to actually film properly. So maybe when we get back from our summer vacation, come to Atlanta, we'll set up a TV, we'll get some wine, we'll watch it, and we'll just do it in person, maybe.
Oh, no. That's
Is that
I'm
scary?
almost scared of what stuff I would say, but okay.
You don't think about it now. Just something for down the road.
Yeah, I don't wanna be any more traumatized. Okay, but that's crazy. What an idea. A reaction video. Who knew?
Yep. Bye,
Mhm.
everybody. Thanks for joining us on A Little Bit Culty.